Where are you flying to, Benjamin?
What is this?
Would they the Atlanta Hawks, but they're all be eliminated from the playoff?
I give you a few seconds to think. You were not so bad with your bird knowledge.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously a bird. I mean it's harder if it was something else. What else is happening around flying? Uh, yeah, okay, I'm out. Where are we going?
Just because Man United is not performing well, you should not ignore other soccer matches.
This weekend? Who else played? I mean, I know, but that was last weekend. Munich won the league. Europa Cup was Frankfurt. Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah,
That is what you're talking
the eagle.
about.
It's an
The
eagle.
eagle. Yeah, it took me. I mean, I don't know the logo so well, but now that you mentioned it, I got there eventually.
A German title. It doesn't happen so often, and
That's not. Yes, that is true.
Frankfurt and their fans deserved it. Both
Good.
teams had lots of sympathies, I think.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Weirdly, I haven't had time to catch the highlights, which is super strange for me.
There were not so many.
There were not too many. Did you watch the game?
No, I watched the highlights. So yeah,
Okay.
it was a big save by Kevin Trapp 2 minutes before extra time ended. That easily could have been the victory for Glasgow, but he saved it.
Yeah, I know it was I don't know the lead up. Obviously, for Scotland, it was a big thing for Rangers to get there. Yeah, would have been a good winner, a new winner, either ways.
And the Warriors won tonight.
Game one, yeah, nice, solid result for them.
I like both teams, so I'm happy that one of them will make it. I have a slight preference for the Warriors because I think their time is think in the not so far future, and the Mavericks with Luka Doncic, they still got some time for a title. So I think would rather see the Warriors in the finals this time.
Yeah, I mean the Mavs pulling out the way they annihilated the Suns in Game 7. It was almost like Game 1 would have been a bit of a wash. Like for them, they needed maybe a little bit of extra recovery time. No, yeah, I mean they pretty much cruised through Game 7. No, I mean I love both sets of playoffs. The Celtics Heat on the other side. I know the Heat took a early lead, but the Celtics were without Smart and without Al Horford. Yeah, two great series. Should be fun.
I agree, and I like, to be honest, I like all four teams.
Yeah,
it rarely happens that in the conference finals I'm like, okay, whoever wins, I'm happy for them.
Yeah, actually I was really happy that the Mavs made it. I mean, the Suns would have been the only team I would have been like, I don't really care about them so much. I don't know, I just don't get. I'm not a huge Devin Booker fan. Yeah, definitely Luka over Devin Booker. So I'm glad that one happened.
I'm happy that we sorted that out. Let's come to some.
Yeah, why do we do this show? I feel like we do this show just to catch up with each other and talk about sports rather than sports tech.
I'm always in a good mood after the show. It gives me energy. So
that's good. That's good. It is fun. That's why we do it. We enjoy it.
All right. Somehow, okay, my my screen that I prepared disappeared. So give me some time. In the meantime, let me.
Professionals. We're all professionals here, as we do.
Absolutely. I really hope that Pedro is shouting, doing a shout out today, or like posting something. I get worried. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's come to news number 1. As always, we start with a few funding rounds. Not too many big ones this week, so we went for some select funding rounds. The first one is Sizzle. Sizzle raised 5 million in a seed round. And as always, we'd like to share with you what they do. It's pretty straightforward, but also, let's say, a bit genius at the same time. So in short, they do instant replays for esports. While you might say, okay, that's nothing crazy. I'm used to replays with sports since, I don't know, 10, 20 years. In esports, that's a different thing, right? Different animal. And the cool thing is they do this fully automated with some AI. So there's no person, which is understandable because it all happens so quick. So there's no person who has to choose what is going to go on replay, but that AI learns what is great, which angles are cool, with what people react to well, and then they just show it to the user. Pretty straightforward, in my opinion. I can quickly show you their website. I mean, what you're gonna see is a replay from, instant replay for some games. So they call it Epic Highlights. So all in all, a good tool to help you produce some content that your audience hopefully enjoys in esports. Anything to add on that one, or shall I move on to the next?
No, keep going. We'll talk about all three at the end.
Cool. Next one, we are moving away from esports, even though it is sort of a virtual game as well. The VR hockey training app SenseArena has raised 3 million. So again, a small round, but I think their solution is pretty cool. Let me quickly find you the video that they shared. It is not a crazy spectacular one, but I think it helps to understand what they do. So in ice hockey, they give you the opportunity to train.
Before I used SenseArena, I was never able to train.
Yeah, that always happens. You don't see too much footage within the video of what the player actually sees, but there's a couple seconds on this. So yeah, if you are either injured or you want to train from home, this is what you see. You put on your VR goggles, and then you have different scenes from practice, from game. So just an alternative form to do your hockey training. And if you go on their website, they actually state that they are the only hockey VR training app. So pretty cool thing, actually. And as you can see, there are quite some teams using their solution already. I find it pretty cool. We've seen it in other sports. And yeah, so it was only a matter of time until it would reach ice hockey as well, especially, like I said, for injured players, something that is an interesting alternative. Then coming to funding round number 3, we stay within, let's say, the US dominated sports, moving from ice hockey to basketball. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it SIQ? Is it SIQ basketball? I don't know. They announced.
I think they're going for like some sick basketball, right? Like I would hope so almost. Otherwise it's just a SIQ. What is that?
Yeah, SIQ sounds a bit lame-ish. So let's go with SIQ basketball. So SIQ basketball has developed indeed a SIQ basketball, and that is why they were able to raise 3 million in funding. So like I said, small funding rounds today to further develop their product, which is a basketball, which you can see here. It is a smart one, so it comes with lots of sensors so that you are able to analyze your game, and you have a bunch of interesting analytics, the ones that are listed here: the make or miss ratio, the shot release speed, the swish percentage. I really like that one. So how accurate did you shoot? So if, let's say, the ball touches the rim a little bit, it would recognize that. If it's like a pure swish, then of course you have some high accuracy, release angles, spin rate, and a bunch of other stuff. Like really, I think nicely presented in this app. Yeah, basically helping you to work out without the need of any video solution, without any other person doing anything. I mean, we have tested. What was the app? The basketball app again? I forgot the name. The famous one.
Next home court.
Home court, exactly. So home court is one where you take your phone.
I was thinking Next Labs. Yeah, that's a parent company.
Yeah, put it somewhere on the ground. They analyze your game, which works pretty well and impressive, actually. So you don't need much, but maybe it's more convenient for you if you just have the ball. And especially if you go to a court, you don't always want to put your camera there, and I don't know, you might be afraid to break your phone or whatever. So maybe just having the smart basketball helps you with your workout. So 1 highlight, clip company, and 2 workout solutions.
As first, quick shout out to Duncan Robinson. Always like Miami Heat. Let's go. he's having taking a bit of a backseat this year with Max Struess, but still good to see him. I think I've seen the video of him using this app. He was like, "Oh, it's so cool, it's sick and shit." Yeah, no, I mean, three cool companies. Actually, more than anything else, I quite like this format now that we always start the show with talking about some top rounds from the previous week and also getting to introduce some cool new companies. So, yeah, for millions of viewers, if you like this format, tell us in the chat, and if you want to keep it or if you like us to change it. But yeah, otherwise, three good solutions. SenseArena, I'm pretty sure I've seen another VR play in hockey. Of course, we've seen VR in other sports, wrestle and b-soccer and so on. But I feel like I remember another one in hockey. I'll have to check. And yeah, same with automated highlights with Sizzle. Three good companies.
Yeah.
And speaking of good companies,
there we
should
go.
we go to the next one, Ben?
Yeah, go for it.
Some more new startups. Meet 10 best early stage startups. So this is the Startup Bootcamp Melbourne Sport and Event Tech Accelerator program. Yeah. So Ollie Howard, a good friend of ours at STX, he just announced earlier, well, actually it was the week before, as you can see, May 10th, where they made an announcement for the 10 new companies that have joined their cohort, which will start, I believe, in June. These are the companies. So a couple of names that I'd heard of before, so not completely new. But yeah, of course, majority of them. Sorry?
Finally.
I mean, After I've spoken with, and Trainer as well, I've seen, but the others are all pretty new. But yeah, as pretty standard fare with the rest of the details, they want to focus on NFTs, on ticketing, on some cool fan engagement stuff. Their partners are also quite good. This year, they've got Cricket Australia, they've got the Australian Grand Prix, Netball Australia. I'm super curious to see what Netball Australia will come out with, as in what solution will go for them, rowing, etc. So they got some good, let's say, partners within the Australian ecosystem. And a quick look at the companies. Avatar is around sports media. Firefly is around kind of CSR things, sponsors for volunteers. I can go through the list, but I think it's worth checking out all 10 companies. The cohort will start now in June, so it'll be 3 months later, sometime around August or September, we will see a demo day and see what these cool guys get up to. Yeah, some quotes in the article, but nothing particularly unique. The companies to go onto our list.
Nice. Two things. I think they're going to run it virtually again, right?
Yeah.
At least mostly. And which was the NFT company? Do you remember?
This one. There are a couple of Web3 players. There is Tero Labs, which is the NFT one. I can quickly open. Oh, okay, it doesn't open a new page. But Tero Labs is the studio. There is a Web3 based recruitment platform. That was Trainer. That's the one I'd seen before. And there was another one which said Web3 somewhere. Yeah, Web2 and 3 streaming in live. I don't know why this Tero Labs website is not opening.
Maybe you need an NFT to access the page.
And then it will not work on my laptop. And actually, I do have quite a few NFTs which don't do anything. But yeah, there you go. That's you can ping it to you later. Tero.app.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think despite the very long name that the Australian sports tech accelerators traditionally have, they closed shop already. Nice.
Yeah. Have a good look. The website is already done.
No, I mean, despite the long names, they are typically good in picking their companies. I mean, both a Startup Bootcamp and what was the other one? The other one,
the Techstars.
Techstars. They're both in Melbourne, right?
Both in Melbourne.
They typically do well in picking companies. So curious to see what happens there.
Yep.
Maybe they should introduce some cross acceleration.
I feel like this has become the thing now. Like, what is the most interesting segue that we can create? But yeah, this is a good way for us to.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering what you got to comment on this, and what you take on this.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's interesting news, and I don't know how groundbreaking it is. When I was going through the text, I was like, okay, interesting, but I think it opens up some interesting angles. So I kind of like these things. So pretty straightforward. FIFA 22, soon EA Sports FC, is gonna introduce a cross-play test. What does that mean? It is very simple. Now players from these consoles can play FIFA against each other. That is the entire news, basically.
Yep.
And what is so special about it? That, I mean, it's entirely new. So far, it was like a silo option to play against someone from. You only were able to play against someone with the same console. Now you can play against all the others. And the article mentions that, for example, Google Stadia, which has a smaller audience, always had some issues with finding enough people to play against. And now that problem is solved, so to speak. Literally, that's basically all that's in the article. So I was wondering, what does it really change? What is going to happen? And does it? I mean, it has to work really well to cover the differences in the gameplay, or I don't know, speed or whatever between all the different consoles. So I also expected it to be not so easy to execute from the FIFA 22 or the EA side. What was your thinking around it?
Well, I mean, first up, the reason for including it for me was obvious. It's coming on the back of last week's top story, which was EA Sports and FIFA decoupling. So EA Sports doubling down on making their game more, let's say, widely accessed. If FIFA, the football organization, had any plans of aligning with a console maker or doing something which is based in that sort of idea, that's gone. I think FIFA, from what I've read since about that news, they wanted to establish partnerships with other gaming brands like Fortnite and Roblox, and they wanted to go into other worlds, which is one of the reasons to go into other worlds. They jumped off EA Sports, but EA Sports is trying to go everywhere. So they're deepening their connections effectively and reaching a wider community. And kind of the moment you have this kind of gameplay, from how we've seen it work in other games, gamers just tend to enjoy it more. So it's just a way for FIFA to say that the name doesn't matter, the game is most important. And the kind of feature set that they are going to provide to gamers, I don't know what game FIFA will come up with, but it's unlikely to match what EA Sports does. So the gap will continue to widen. The only question becomes whether this loss of revenue, which is significant for FIFA, will they cover it up through their partnerships with, I don't know, Roblox or Fortnite or anything? That's a big question mark. The other one, another follow-up, through partnerships like this, one thing that EA Sports has not been able to do previously, because of the close links to FIFA, was that they were restricted by the companies that they can work with have to be FIFA companies, like, for example, Adidas and stuff. I think that's mentioned in this article, or somewhere else, I'm not sure. But so now EA Sports can build all sorts of new partnerships. And as they're going cross-platform, they can open up interesting partnership collaborations with different platforms. So I think they're basically opening up more revenue by going across different platforms for them, which I think is a super interesting direction for them to go. It just feels to me that FIFA have really dropped the ball. Time would tell. Maybe they'll kill it in the metaverse the way EA Sports want. Who knows? But at least for now, it's looking like a worse decision with every new announcement that EA Sports makes.
That's a nice angle, and especially what you said in the first part of your answer. I think the interoperability is an interesting play.
That's the word. There's my Web3 word that I was missing.
You can do your meta news soon. No worries. No, but I mean it doesn't have to stop there. I mean, now it's available across platforms, and maybe then, if you have this ultimate FIFA ultimate card, I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah.
Maybe you can use
Ultimate Team, right? Yeah.
Ultimate Team, yeah. Maybe you can use that player in some sort of metaverse as well. I don't know. I mean, they're just opening up opportunities, and
exactly
on the tech end, I think that maybe already preparing for that.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I mean, in 22, it's a small test. They say that they're very clearly marking it as a test. It will be part of 23 already, which will be the last FIFA EA Sports, and with EA Sports FC, of course, I'm sure it'll continue.
Yeah. What's your
Okay.
segue?
My segue is from one game to another. We're going into NBA's virtual land, which is actually it's not so much a game. It's just there are games in there, but this is NBA launching in Meta's Quest VR environment for the playoffs. We started talking about the playoffs, and this is something like what it looked like. I kept looking for videos and stuff. I didn't get any of those. I got on the Meta on the Oculus website some more images. Um, yeah, so these are virtual worlds that you can enter as a fan, of course, right? So what can you do in these virtual worlds with your Meta? So remember, you have to have the Oculus VR headset. So this is only on the Oculus platform. So can come and check out NBA Lane. NBA Lane has been their branding that they have been using to uh, celebrate the 75th year. So walk down memory lane. They've released a lot of videos featuring older NBA stars. So walk down the NBA memory lane, which is the NBA lane in Horizon Worlds. And what can you do? You can do some free throw competition. You can do a low gravity dunk contest, which sounds kind of fun. Basically, I don't know, you're flying. So whatever, how creative you want to be with the dunk contest, you can be in this virtual world. You can take selfies in the trophy room of your virtual self in a virtual room. With selfies will always be there apparently, and there is a big screen where you can actually go and watch parts of the content. Only thing I was unclear of is, are the clips and like, are these actual game highlights, or are these some sort of animated version of the highlights of the game? Maybe that's one step too far. But basically, you can enter the virtual world and watch some content. You can play some games with you and your friends. Yeah, some dunk contests, some free throw shooting, and take some pictures with the trophies. Yeah, the only one thing I'll add then before I before you jump in is that I try to click on like uh, on the links to this Horizon Worlds, and that said coming soon. So some yeah, this is the one. It says somewhere that launched, but somewhere else that is not launched. So I was a bit confused by that.
Your confusion is the key word here. First of all, before I come to that, we finally have to buy an Oculus in order to go down the memory lane, as they call it. Secondly, no, confusion. Why am I mentioning this? And as much as I appreciate the NBA being probably the most innovative league on this planet, at least top three, sometimes they confuse me as well, I have to say, because it feels like it's the third virtual world they have been announcing in the last 2 months, and all of them feel like there are more headlines than actually usable and enjoyable. So again, I would like to see the usage numbers, because I'm sure they're not so high. I remember they had this virtual coach which had the voice of Shaq. Then I don't know, there was this other virtual.
Then what are you talking about? The Netaverse one? I don't think that was the NBA, but that was the Nets. But still, yeah, another kind
I
of
think there was
virtual.
one other one recently. I can't recall it exactly, but
But
it feels
yeah,
like
I know what you mean.
they're doing a bit too much and bringing out those half-baked solutions, while being really innovative in other fields. So yeah, it is nice, and of course with Meta, it's nice to publish this as a PR piece and all of that. But are people really going to use it? I am not so sure. So that's my
Yeah,
take on it. But on the other hand, just to finish that, it's a good learning experience for them probably. I mean, they're experimenting, but I'm more a fan of do it quietly and don't use it so much as PR.
yeah, I think that's exactly what I was going to say. I think it's more on the experimentation side. I think the NBA traditionally has been good with that. So I think they're maybe different teams are doing different types of partnerships, and they're saying there are no wrong answers right now. It's still early days, so let's play in a couple of different directions and see what results turn out. Now, will it be a much of muchness that there's a lot going on and everybody's distracted, and NBA fans are like, do I go here? Do I go there? And they're kind of cannibalizing their own efforts, or will maybe one experiment click and that will be the shining light? Only time will tell, of course. But it does feel like an experimental phase for them. And I think also, I think they've seen The one interesting thing I thought about this angle was that the NBA has aligned itself with Google and with YouTube a lot on their content side. And for them to, I mean, this is a new experimentation, but going with Meta into clearly a different big tech giant, that sounded like an interesting new direction. They could have easily skipped Meta or something, saying because we are more aligned with Google. But they're doing both, so they're doing everything, I guess, right now.
Yep. Speaking about Google and doing everything, there's one
set you up, Ben. Set you up so beautifully.
There's one thing that Google has not done yet.
No.
So
but they are soon.
And the time of experiments should finally be over as well, because it's time to deliver. That is the message. Rumor has it that Google's Pixel Watch is finally arriving this fall. Why finally? Also mentioned in the article, it is not a well-kept secret. I think everybody knows that this is going to happen. It finally needs to happen. And a lot of actions in the past done by Google have pointed to that direction. Specifically, 2 acquisitions, Fitbit, as we know, and I think it was Fossil's smartwatch unit or smartwatch business. And also Fitbit and Fossil have acquired solutions themselves before. And it seems, is finally coming together to this beautiful or not so beautiful, that's up to you. I think it's a nice design, watch by Google. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, the question, what can it do? And first of all, the article, which is still speculating, but it seems like they have good sources, says that Fitbit is still going to exist as a brand, so nothing's happening on that side. But this is a separate solution, so to speak. So it can do all the things that you would expect from a smartwatch. We shouldn't go into detail. But what I found interesting, and I want to get your opinion on this. Let me quickly find this where it was. So obviously, I mean, the Fitbit CEO, James Park, are driving the development of the watch, which I think is a good one. But what I found interesting or a bit surprising is that they said, as promised during the acquisition of Fitbit, the health information will be siloed on the Fitbit side. Yeah. That is very surprising to me. I mean, they made that promise, so they better keep that promise. But isn't that also where the true power is? I mean, what Apple is always preaching, that they want to offer a holistic solution which offers fitness and health information. And it sounds like that the Google Pixel Watch will only have fitness information, even though they didn't mention it explicitly in this article, but not all the health, so maybe more the medical information. I wasn't sure how to read it, but I think this is one of the core elements in this article. How did you read it?
Actually, it's an interesting point, and I immediately thought of, because I have a Fitbit, and of course I use an Android phone, so I'm in that universe, and my Fitbit app / whatever health data it's gathering and what Google Fit gathers are completely different. The actual values, I mean, the range is pretty much the same. Instead of 10,000, would be maybe 200 plus or minus in that way, but they are different. The values are different, so it's not like they're sharing data. I remember seeing this, and I was curious about the first time I saw it. I can add my Fitbit to my Google Fit, but I can't add Google Fit to my Fitbit. So Fitbit is like, we are the primary source of collection. Obviously, Google Fit is gathering only data from your phone. Your phone is not always with you, etc., etc. So I think they've already drawn that line within the company. So even if I have a Fitbit and an Android phone / maybe even a Google device, they are still separate. Now, I'm sure that even if they keep it separate, I'm sure Google is using that information to develop products. They maybe are not bringing it into real time, and not like I'm as a user not connecting the devices, but I'm sure they have access to that data when developing products to say, hey, what sort of features are being utilized more, what metrics should we focus on more, for example, oxygen levels, or what are other good metrics that were glucose levels and stuff, which are which Fitbit is now, the newer devices are promising that they can do. So are these features actually used? I'm sure Google is going to check that. But no, taking a step back, I think it's an interesting take. We've talked about the wristband wars for a while. Facebook has been a long time talking about launching their own play. We knew Google had made a couple of acquisitions. Now they've launched their own standalone device, coming up against Apple, who's clearly the market leader. We talked about Peloton doing this a while ago. So this war for this real estate on your wrist, it seems to be gathering more momentum now.
The wrist estate, so to speak.
The wrist estate, is that there? Fair. I'll give you that. I like my band wars.
Band wars, yeah.
The band was. It's not too bad.
No, but I mean, I think it's interesting. I as a user would expect that I can just use it wherever I want, and I mean they're one company, and they promised it, but I really don't know why. But let's see. I think it looks really cool. I have to admit that, and let's see what it can do. But I think it's time for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about upgrading to. I mean, I've had this Fitbit for a couple of years now, almost. So I was anyway thinking about upping the smartwatch game and checking out something new. So this timing might be interesting. I'll give you any review if I can actually get my hands on one.
Please do. You can make a review video.
Why not? All right. In the meantime, of course, Google, if anybody's listening, you can also send us one and we'd be happy to test it. For the millions that are watching, I'm sure there's some Google employees in there.
Maybe Pedro is working at Google.
Maybe silently. And no word from Pedro. We hope you're well, Pedro. I hope you're watching. We hope
2
you're well.
2 weeks without him. I'm getting worried. Man. Yeah. Where will you be next week? I mean, today you're back in Berlin, so that guy keeps changing locations. Is that gonna be the same like next week?
No, today I'm in Berlin, and tomorrow I fly back to Manchester. So I'll be there for the next few weeks, and then I'll be back in Berlin come July.
Always on the road, that guy. All right.
Yep.
That's it for today, guys. Have a good week, rest of the weekend. See you next week.